An in-depth look at the issues and people making news in North Carolina. Here's your host, Sonia Williams.
Experts say the number of home fire deaths has increased in North Carolina over the past 2 years. Now, fire safety experts are working to educate the public about ways to prevent home fires. And joining me now is Jan Parker, Injury Prevention Specialist with the Office of the State Fire Marshal, and that office is a part of the Department of Insurance. Jan, welcome back to Tar Heel Talk.
Thank you, Sonia. It's great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Let's talk about this. The number of home fire deaths has increased over the past 2 years, which is really, it's quite surprising considering all the information that is available to the public.
It is very
about
alarming,
house fires.
and we are working with fire departments and many agencies partnering across the state to see if we can, you know, there's a lot of work to be done, and we're just trying really hard. We have smoke alarm grant programs. We have all types of information, as you said, but we are trying to see if we can pinpoint the problem and do whatever it's going to take to bring down these numbers.
Right. Any ideas so far as to why we've seen so many?
Well, you know, we know the trend, especially when we know a few things, that many of these are high-risk elderly populations.
Okay.
We know that as the winter season comes on, many of the fires are related to heating or alternative types of heat. And then again, we know that unfortunately some of these victims have been in homes that didn't have working smoke alarms. So that is the one thing that we hope that we can do the most to impact and make a difference with that. The American Red Cross is on board. They've, you know, joined their campaign. They've been angels for years. They have been the ones that when we were at a fire and someone had lost their home or, you know, were in need, they were there on the scene with the fire department, helping put things back together. But now they're on the front end with us doing prevention work by seeing if we can canvass neighborhoods that we know might be at risk. And this is, you know, this is a national program for them, and we work together all over the state of North Carolina.
So you're working to bring smoke detectors into homes. Tell us a little bit about the efforts that have been done over the past 2 years.
Well, the last several years, our Office of State Fire Marshal has been the recipient of a FEMA grant that allowed us to have lots of smoke alarms and carbon monoxide as well. But we were able to offer continuous grants so that there's 1,250 fire departments across the state, and a large number of those departments had applied for our grants, and we would do training, and then they would go out into their communities and they would target certain high-risk areas that they knew were in need. And we were doing this, you know, like I said, all over the state, partnering with Baptist Aged Ministry, the American Red Cross, and other volunteers that were interested in helping us get that done. And we know that a lot of people believe that they have a working smoke alarm, but you know, maybe they had smoke alarms, but they need to be replaced because they're old. A lot of people don't realize that the life of a smoke alarm is only 10 years.
Oh my goodness. So even if it's in your home and it appears to still be working, if it's 10 years old or older, it probably needs to be replaced?
Exactly. If it is 10 years old, it definitely needs to be replaced. And I brought one just to show tonight, Sonia, because this is taking advantage of new technology. This is actually an alarm that has a lithium battery. The battery itself is going to be good for 10 years. You never have to replace the battery. You need to test it once a month, but never is, we call it tamper resistant. Once it's installed and activated, the life is 10 years. So
wow, that's wonderful in and of itself, because I just recently changed the battery in mine, and now I'm thinking it's about 14 years old, so I probably need to replace it as well.
This is what we definitely recommend. And people that have rental property, this is an excellent, well, actually they should be replacing any with the 10-year lithium, because that is the law now. But it really makes a difference. And this year, the Fire Prevention Week campaign in October that we observed each year was Hear the Beep Where You Sleep. And not only should we have smoke alarms on each level of our home, they need to be inside each sleeping room.
Okay.
And don't forget, you know, there are people sometimes as they get older or because of health conditions, maybe they're not in their bedroom any longer. They're sleeping in a recliner or, you know, on the couch or somewhere. So remember that if you're using an area of the house as a sleeping room, don't forget that you need the protection there as well.
That's an important point. And I also understand that a lot of the new smoke detectors don't necessarily require wiring to be activated. Talk a little bit about that, because I think that's major, especially for older homes.
Right. Well, since, you know, the mid-70s, in the building code has required that new homes would have the electric smoke alarm, and it would be installed on each level of the home, and that's usually in the hallway outside the bedrooms. So if you have an older home, we definitely recommend that you add these battery type. I think you should always have a battery type, regardless of the electric, because of weather emergencies, and you know, and some of the electric that may be in homes have a battery backup built in that unit. But certainly a good idea to add these 10-year lithium battery smoke alarms in each of the sleeping rooms. And if you have a newer home, the code now, the homes will have interconnected alarms, so if one goes off, it goes off throughout the house, and that's ideal. But for those of us that don't have a home that recent, you know, then we can do a lot to make that safer for everyone.
And you can get that at any hardware store or?
Yeah, any of the home improvement stores, and then a lot of the, you know, other stores. I don't want to start calling names, but it is not hard to find these alarms. And I also encourage our viewers to check with your local fire department. They may be one of the fire departments that's working with us and has smoke alarms available. And if you, I also recommend that you, even if you have an alarm and you just hadn't gotten around to installing it, many fire departments are willing to come to your home at a convenient time for both of you, the fire department as well as the homeowner, and help you install these. And that's something, you know, we really do not want anybody to be injured standing on a chair you know, because the fire department, they have ladders that they can offer, and, you know, I just recommend that you do check with your local fire department.
That's a valuable service, and I'm sure it probably wouldn't hurt to have an expert, so to speak, there to help make sure that everything is installed and working properly.
That would be really good. And don't forget to test once a month. And you can use a broom handle, mop handle, or a yardstick to hit the test button. So even though you don't have to change the battery every year, you really do need to test at least once a month and make sure it's working.
Absolutely, and that's all of them that you have in your home.
Yep.
Okay, Jan, we're going to take a break and we'll talk more in just a minute.
Okay.
Coming up, how to escape a home safely from a house fire, why every family needs a plan when Tar Heel Talk continues. Today's show focuses on fire safety during winter months and the holiday season. With us again is Jan Parker, Injury Prevention Specialist with the Office of the State Fire Marshal. Jan, before the break, we were talking a little bit about the importance of having working smoke detectors in your home. In addition to that, it is equally as important to have an escape plan for your entire family should your house catch fire.
Exactly. It's very important. You don't want to wait until you have an emergency to try to figure out where to go and how to get out quickly. So having an escape plan is very important, and we know that it's part of having a comprehensive home safety plan, really. And the whole family can be involved. So that's the good news. The children practice their fire drills at school. They are really good, you know.
They are.
And they know that it's important, and they do it once a month, and they can actually help the family. And it's an activity that you can do together. But whether there's young children at home or not, even if, you know, a senior adult that lives alone still needs to have a plan and think about what they would do. We need 2 ways out of every room, and especially out of the bedrooms, because the serious, you know, fires that can occur happen many times during the night, late hours, and when you are awakened from your sleep, hopefully to a smoke alarm, so you have plenty of time to get out. You need to have a plan.
Right. So. And I know a lot of times when you have maybe a two-story home, having something that will help you get out of that second story window is important.
Yeah. A lot of families have questions about that, and there are 2- and 3-story escape ladders available, and I really encourage people to consider that, because if you have to get out quickly and you only have the one stairwell down, you know, using a window as your second means out is very, you know, possible. And by having the ladder where everybody could go to this particular room, I don't recommend that, you know, that you use it unless it is an emergency, but I think you should take time to look at the directions and be familiar with it and practice actually. I've demonstrated that many times through the years, but to be able to, you know that you can get the window open easily, and where is it? Don't hide it in the closet and then not be able to find it when you need it. So you know, we say like twice a year at least, and probably, like I said, the school kids, the schools, it's the law, they have their fire drill once a month. It's not too much to think about doing that, because you really need to, you know, pay attention to prevention, be ready, be prepared, and once you're out, you know, get out, stay out, but have a meeting place outside. And that should be out front. Part of your home escape plan should be a meeting place that everybody in the family is familiar with, and it should be out front so that when the first responders arrive on the scene, they can see you, talk to you, and know that everyone is accounted for.
Definitely important to do that. And you're talking about the winter months and people using alternative heating sources. I know a lot of times that can be hazardous in a home.
It is, and unfortunately with the economy and budgets, it's sad, but it's reality that a lot of people don't have the money to pay their fuel bill, or sometimes, you know, they're using space heaters or a fuel type heater, and they need to really be careful, because they're not intended to be used, you know, they're supplemental, but when you leave home, when you go to bed, you need to shut these off. You need to pay attention that you give them plenty of space, at least 3 feet away from furniture, from the curtains, the bed covers, and it's just tragic when we hear about, you know, the loss of life and property. But if you're going to use these, you really need to be sure you have the safety features and that you plug the electric heaters directly into the outlet and do not use extension cords, because many times that just adds to the, you know, to the danger. And I just can't say enough about if you're using these, and I know if we have a weather emergency, people lose their power and have to do whatever they can to stay warm, but
it's important to be safe as you're using
Take time to be safe and really be sure you follow the directions, manufacturer's instructions, use the proper fuel, and never, you know, take it outside, let it cool down before you refuel if you're using one of the devices that. But again, if you use a wood stove, fireplace, be sure that you have that clean at least once a year, because that's a lot of time the fires are related to a creosote buildup in the chimney. And then even, you know, if you have a whatever kind of heat, if you have a central heating, we still need to have those serviced by a professional, a qualified professional, at least once a year, so that you know everything's in working order.
And it's also important to have that carbon monoxide detector in the home.
Yes, it is. And I can't say enough about that. Carbon monoxide is a gas, and you know, we call it the silent killer. It's just tragic, because too many times people had no idea that they had a problem with their furnace. And that's one of the things, when you have it checked out once a year, you know, you could get a warning. Having a carbon monoxide alarm could save your family from serious illness or even death. But if it's, you know, a fossil fueled, if you have a fueled appliance, it could be a cook stove, heat, or your water heater. But all of these appliances, you know, and even an attached garage, we say that if you're going to warm your car, you need to back it out. And
that's true.
Recently, we heard the news of a family that had couldn't pay their electric bill or had their power shut off, and so they had a generator in the garage, and that even in the garage, you know, you might think, well, I had the door partially up or whatever, but it still can, the fumes can get into the house, so it needs to be a safe distance away from the house. But the carbon monoxide alarm on each level is very important.
Okay. And you've brought one with you, so
this is just one that can plug in, and it also has a battery backup. And the newer ones now, to catch up with the 10-year smoke alarm, now there are some on the market. In the past, that they had been 5 and 7 years was the life, and now they have a couple of models that are good for 10 years. So if you have an older one and you're going to replace it, consider that type.
Okay. And I see with the plug-in, talk a little bit about placement. Where should you place that in your home?
You need one on each level, but I would say if you can have it near your sleeping area, that would be most important. But you talking about the level where we install smoke alarms on the ceiling or high up on the wall, because the carbon monoxide, that gas is sort of the same, you know, weight as air, so it's going to distribute pretty evenly. So you do not have to have a carbon monoxide alarm on the ceiling. It can be at the level of your outlets.
Okay, good information to know. We're going to take another break. We'll talk more in just a minute. Up next, 'tis the season for holiday decorations. We'll tell you how to light up your home without it going up in flames when Tar Heel Talk continues. Welcome back to Tar Heel Talk. I'm Sonia Williams. Experts say the number of home fire deaths has increased in North Carolina over the past 2 years. Now, fire safety experts are focused on keeping consumers safe during the winter months and throughout the holiday season. And with us again is Jan Parker, Injury Prevention Specialist with the Office of the State Fire Marshal. That office is a part of the Department of Insurance. Jan, this is the time of year. We just finished Thanksgiving. People are anxious to put up their holiday, their Christmas decorations. What should we be mindful of as we are decorating?
We want to be mindful of fire safety. We want to do everything we can. Actually, being careful and not being in a hurry, because one of the things that happens often during this time of decorating is that people fall, you know, and so be thinking about that too, that personal injury, because they, you know, don't take time to get the step stool. They just climb on the furniture or think they can, you know, stand on a chair that isn't intended to be a step stool. So keeping in mind when you're doing those decorations and putting up the lights and things to be careful of your own safety. But they see a lot of visits in the ER. But the main thing is to think about fire safety when you're pulling out your decorations. And I know afterwards when we're packing them up and you know, we don't think about them again until we're ready to use them. But each set of lights needs to be carefully examined, and you need to look for any nicks or frays or wear and tear. And if you find something, loose bulbs and things, you know, and you really need to replace them, because there's not a lot of repair we need to be doing on these tiny wires.
Okay, and that's something I asked you in the break, was a little bit about, you know, I have this great Christmas tree that I absolutely love, and some of the wires on the lights are worn. Taping them, as you said, is not really a good option.
Not a good idea. Okay. It's time to
time to replace.
Yeah,
time to
you're going to have to go shopping, Sonia.
Okay.
But for those of us that still just have to have that fresh tree, or we want it to be fresh, it starts when you're selecting that tree, when you're shopping for your live cut tree, and you want to check the needles, and you can do that by rubbing your hands back and forth on each branch. And if you have a handful of needles, you need to keep shopping, keep looking for a fresher tree. And then many times right on the Christmas tree lot, they will offer to do a fresh cut on the trunk, about 2 inches. And then as soon as you get home with it, even if you're not ready to bring it inside, you need to place it in a bucket of water and let it go ahead and absorb that water. And if, you know, this is just so important, because a fresh tree is going to make all the difference. And once it's in your home, you want to avoid the heat vents, stay away from the doors and travel areas, but also any heat source could dry it out more, and you need to check it every day. You might not believe it, but it can dry out over one day.
Well, we have a video from the National Fire Protection Association that kind of shows it's 2 live trees. One has been well watered and the other is dry. Let's take a look at that, and you can kind of talk us through just how quickly a fire can happen with a dry tree.
Well, as you can see, one's going up quickly, and the other one that's much fresher. It looks like the decorations and other items are burning, but the one that was dry is just out of control. And you can only imagine that if this were in your home, that it's going to be a serious fire. And if you were in that room, you could not be, the smoke would be great and you would not be there long. The one that's been watered and fresh, I have been in that situation where I was trying to demonstrate that before, and I know it does not ignite easily. So that, a picture's worth 1,000 words, that says it all.
Absolutely. How quickly that dry, live Christmas tree went up in flames. That could be your entire home in just a matter of minutes.
And fortunately, we don't see lots of Christmas tree fires, but the ones that occur, we know 2 things. It usually was electrical or the results of decorations that were around the tree. And then we know they're pretty serious, the ones that occur. So that's something we want to avoid. And by getting a fresh tree, and I think another thing, Sonia, those of us that have a few days off at Thanksgiving, we want to get a head start on the holidays, and by that's a long time. If you keep your tree through the Christmas and then the New Year, that's over a month.
So you really do need to be checking it on a daily basis.
And unfortunately, if you did select a tree that wasn't fresh and you see signs of it drying out, you really need to be mindful and get it out of the house, because that is a fire hazard.
Even if you don't light it up, if you don't plug in the lights, it still can be dangerous.
I would think that, because some of the lights now, the LED, they really don't get very hot, which can help to keep it. And I would check that. That's another safety tip, to check your lights. And if you feel a lot of heat from it, then I would think you consider another type of lights, because that can help keep the tree fresh too.
And people can get more information on various fire tips by going to the National Fire Protection Agency Association's website, and that is nfpa.org. They can get a variety of tips and safety tips, not just for the holiday and the winter, but really the entire year.
They have over 50 safety tip sheets, and they are the experts. And if you click on this website and then go to safety information, you will be amazed. Just about anything, whether it's turkey fires or candle fires. I don't think we talked about candles, but they're so popular, and people love them, but be extremely careful.
Have to be careful, absolutely.
Don't leave children in the room, and hey, check out the new battery types.
Absolutely. Great information, Jan Parker. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Sonia.
That's it for this week's Tar Heel Talk. To comment on this or other episodes of the show, send us a message on our Facebook page or an email to tarheeltalk@fox50.com. I'm Sonia Williams. Thanks for watching. Have a safe and happy holiday season.